A block button just exposed one of the more uncomfortable generational rifts in Miami rap, and nobody saw it coming from this particular direction. Jacki-O, now known almost exclusively as Minister Angela, reportedly cut JT off online after watching footage of her playing a character called Satan's ex-wife in a short film titled PsyFi. That's the whole spark. Not a diss track, not a business dispute, not even a direct conversation between the two of them. Just a viral clip, a pair of prosthetic horns, and a former rap pioneer who decided she'd seen enough. Here's what actually happened, because the details matter more than the headline suggests. Visual artist Chloe Wise directed PsyFi as part of her extrasensory exhibition, and JT signed on to play the demonic character opposite whatever avant-garde concept Wise was building. The imagery is exactly what it sounds like. Horns, dark styling, a character explicitly named after the devil's ex-wife. It's the kind of stylized, symbolic work that art world crowds treat as provocative and conceptual. It's also exactly the kind of imagery that lands very differently once it leaves that world and starts circulating on timelines stripped of any context. That's the gap Jacki-O fell into. She addressed the film on Facebook, writing that it hurt to see JT dressed as the devil, and said she'd been praying for JT and the rest of the city girls. No shade in the tone, no petty jab. Just genuine discomfort from someone who spent the last several years rebuilding her public identity around ministry work instead of music. What makes this messier than a typical internet spat is the direction of the disappointment. Jacki-O said she'd heard JT credit her rap career as an inspiration in multiple interviews and framed the situation as her own failure, saying she was lost during that era, and if she really did inspire JT, this isn't the path she'd have wanted for her. That's not someone punching down. That's someone taking personal responsibility for a spiritual outcome she never signed up to be accountable for. And it's exactly the kind of framing that makes the block feel heavier than a typical celebrity subtweet. Then she went a step further and made it visual. Alongside her statement, Jacki-O posted a screenshot of a 2024 decimeters, in which JT expressed admiration for her spiritual transformation and pitched a potential collaboration. In that message, JT wasn't just being polite, she was genuinely reverent, telling Jacki-O she supported her spiritual growth and that a collaboration would mean everything to her career. Posting that screenshot did two things at once. It proved the relationship was real and warm, and it made the eventual cutoff sting that much more publicly. Jacki-O didn't stop there either. She framed the block itself as a form of protection, writing that sometimes blocking someone is a blessing in disguise and that she refuses to associate with people who don't carry the spirit of the Lord in their lives, no matter how much they claim to love her. That line is doing a lot of work. It's not just, I don't want to see this content. It's a full theological stance on who she's willing to keep in her orbit. JT was not going to let that sit unanswered, and she didn't wait long to respond either. Instead of subtweeting or issuing some vague statement about haters, JT went straight for receipts, the same tactic Jacki-O had just used against her. She posted her own screenshot, allegedly from Jacki-O's account, before it changed names, appearing to show Jacki-O agreeing to the collaboration and offering to get JT's number to sort out details. In other words, the door to that collaboration wasn't closed by JT walking away from the faith conversation. According to JT's version, Jacki-O was the one who said yes first. The caption that came with it wasn't dramatic, but it was pointed. JT noted, this message predated the page's name change, said this wasn't meant to be an argument since she doesn't do those anymore, then added that nothing said about the music would change her mind, before telling Jacki-O she had her messed up, closing with a sarcastic, God bless you, and a jab that pastors don't clout chase. That combination, staying composed while landing a clean shot, is exactly why this clip is spreading the way it is. It doesn't read like rage. It reads like someone who feels genuinely wronged and wants the timeline to know the full story before drawing conclusions. The public reaction split almost immediately, and it's split in a way that says more about parasocial religious expectations than it does about either woman individually. One side of the comments is fully behind Jacki-O, treating the block as an act of discipline rather than judgment, someone protecting a rebuilt identity from being pulled back toward imagery she associates with a version of herself she's actively distanced from. The other side isn't having it at all. One commenter pointed out that as a pastor, the entire point should be reaching people who are still lost, rather than cutting them off, calling the move disheartening. Another zeroed in on the timeline itself, joking about JT's DM dating back to 2024, sarcastically saying goodbye to the evangelist. A third commenter asked, bluntly, whether fans were even going to get a gospel collaboration out of this or not, treating the entire controversy as a missed opportunity more than a moral crisis. There's a sharper thread running underneath all of it too. Multiple users pushed back on the optics of a minister, publicly screenshotting a private conversation while simultaneously preaching against judgment, with one flatly stating that a real Christian wouldn't have posted the exchange at all. That's the actual fault line here, not whether the art film was appropriate, but whether exposing a private DM thread to make a public point about faith is itself consistent with the values being preached. Internet audiences are quick to spot that kind of contradiction, and once it's pointed out, it tends to dominate the conversation more than the original controversy did. Now here's where it gets genuinely tangled, because the history between these two isn't incidental. It's the entire reason this story has legs instead of dying as a random block screenshot post. JT didn't just admire Jacki-O from a distance. The visual language of her 2024 single Sideways, the diamond nameplate belt, the denim, the metallic gold boots, was a direct callback to Jacki-O's early 2000s aesthetic. That's not a coincidence, and it's not subtle. JT built part of her public image as a tribute to the woman who just blocked her. So when Jacki-O frames this as feeling like she personally failed JT, she's not speaking abstractly about influence. She's talking about someone who studied her closely enough to replicate her look on a single cover. That context is exactly what makes JT's clapback land differently than a normal celebrity feud response. She's not defending a stranger's criticism. She's responding to someone whose career she publicly modeled parts of her own identity after someone she once said she'd be honored to work with in any capacity. The emotional stakes on JT's side aren't about ego protection. They're about watching an idol publicly distance herself in a way that undercuts years of quiet homage. From an industry standpoint, this is a fascinating collision of two different economies of relevance. Jacki-O's current public presence runs almost entirely on her ministry identity. The Minister Angela persona is the product now, not music. Every public statement she makes gets filtered through that lens, which means a moment like this either reinforces her credibility with a faith-based audience or exposes her to accusations of hypocrisy, depending on which side of the comment section you're standing in. There's no neutral outcome for her here. Either she comes across as someone standing firm in conviction, or she comes across as someone using a former mentee's viral moment to reassert her own platform. For JT, the calculation is different, but no less complicated. She's coming off other very public conflicts this year, and getting pulled into a religious versus artistic expression debate isn't the kind of controversy that fits neatly into her existing narrative. Art house casting decisions are typically low-risk moves for artists trying to expand their creative range beyond music. This one blew up, specifically because of who reacted to it, not because of the film's content on its own. If Chloe Wise's short had circulated without any Jacki-O involvement, there's a real chance most casual fans never would have registered it as controversial at all. That's worth sitting with for a second. The film itself, stylized, symbolic, clearly meant to provoke within an art context, wasn't the story until a specific person with a specific history made it one. Jacki-O attached her name and her faith-based framing to the imagery. It stopped being an avant-garde casting choice and became a referendum on JT's spiritual direction, whether JT ever intended it to be read that way or not. As for where this goes next, there are a few realistic outcomes, and none of them involve this quietly disappearing. The most likely path is that both women let their statements stand and simply move on without a follow-up confrontation. JT already said she's not interested in turning this into an ongoing argument, and Jacki-O's ministry-focused messaging doesn't typically lend itself to prolonged social media back and forth. But the screenshots are already circulating widely enough that neither side fully controls the narrative anymore. Commenters are doing that work now, dissecting timestamps, tone, and hypocrisy in real time. There's also a version of this where the collaboration conversation resurfaces. Ironically, multiple commenters have floated the idea that this entire saga would be resolved, or at least reframed, if the two actually made a song together, gospel or otherwise. Given that Jacki-O herself brought up the collaboration pitch by posting it, that door isn't entirely closed, even if the current temperature makes it look that way. What's most interesting about this whole exchange is how little it actually has to do with rap beef mechanics.